there was a day like just a few months ago, a Taiwan dollar is increased the value very soon, like 10% increase in a week. And then every Bitcoin holder in Taiwan, we only have a US dollar based Bitcoin in our market. When we trading back to new Taiwan dollar, then we have a 10% loss without doing anything. We just sit here, sleep, and then we have 10% lost. That's one of the risky part of a sovereignty.
Sir, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
I always start with the same question, which is, can you please introduce yourself and tell me, what do you do?
Yes, right now I'm as a tech policy legislator, which is the member of parliament. Taiwan, we have a single parliament, and there are not much geek in the parliament. So I'm the geek and the nerd in the parliament, trying to encourage our government to embrace the technology, including blockchain and cryptocurrency and cybersecurity and so on. So before I was teaching, I was learning, I was, working with the corporate, and then I have a new hat and working kind of as a public servant, working for people, and trying to make Taiwan not only a tech island, not only a semiconductor chips deliverer, but also embrace the technology in software, in cryptocurrency, and others. Yeah, so that's my job.
Very cool. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but first, could you tell me a little more about your history? You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but what were you doing before this? Yeah, you have a new hat, this kind of a public servant, but yeah, just a little more on the previous hats that you've worn.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have this new hat, but of course, it always be a little bit nervous because I'm not kind of plan my career to have this hat. Originally, before that, my major is in communication, and then I got my computer science PhD in Taiwan, and then went to Silicon Valley, Singularity University, and learned a lot back to 2014. And there, I got the first acquaintance with Bitcoin and this beautiful technology. So at that time, people are still kind of like not very sure what is this. 6 years after Satoshi invented this beautiful technology, right? And after that, I went to Keio University in Japan for my postdoc research, and back to Taiwan as a professor. And then at the same time, because I learned a lot in Silicon Valley, including AI, blockchain. So I would love to talk with more general public about this emerging technology. So I become a podcaster, YouTuber, writer, to kind of like advocate emerging technology to the public in Taiwan. So yeah, here am I. I'm really happy that I had interviewed Audrey Tan, Vitalik, and the many key person in the world. So I'm really happy that Taiwan just catch up. And originally we don't have any regulation on crypto assets or like digital assets. But we're here. We finally have our regulation for innovation. So I'm really happy to be here in Tokyo this year to join my 3rd year in WebX.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
nice. All right, so yes, you are now kind of a legislator. You were a computer scientist. You've worked in the technology entrepreneur space. From your perspective, what do kind of career politicians or kind of government bureaucrats, what do they misunderstand, do you think, about blockchain currently? And then from the other side, what do people in tech, specifically blockchain, what do they not really understand about government and politics?
Yeah, I think first of all, back to 2014 or 13, 14, there are a lot of developers in Taiwan join to the blockchain movement. They join to the hackathon and event in Bitcoin. They even won some prize. And also many people join into the Ethereum development. So there are a lot of talented developers in Taiwan and doing something really in early stage. But after that, kind of like we are facing a downturn, a conservative decade. So from 2000 at the beginning in 2014 and 2016, from 14 to 16, Taiwan is the only place you can buy Bitcoin very easily in convenience store. You can just pay $100 and then you will get a code and you redeem the code, you will get the Bitcoin. It's very easy.
Wow.
But after that, because of scamming and fraud group, many people are kind of like, being suffered from the scamming and fraud. So government jump in and they kind of think that many scamming group or fraud, criminal, they're using, stable coin or cryptocurrency to scam your money or transact their money. So our government jump in and think and say it's dangerous. It's for criminal. So for that 10 years, our government didn't change the position.
Wow.
They are kind of think a lot of politicians, a lot of government officials, even central bank, they released like that last year or like just not very long ago. They officially make a post, say Bitcoin has no value or something like
Really?
that. It's really awful. And for me, as a member of parliament, I officially declare I'm owning Bitcoin. I'm the first ever member of parliament to declare that I own Bitcoin. So when I see some misunderstanding, I'm really sad. But luckily we saw a lot of changing for just 12 months. We saw Genius Act. We saw Japanese government passing a law on stablecoin, on a lot of crypto-related act. And finally, we're here. And even a few months ago, I invite one of the cryptographer or kind of expert on cryptography, Adam Beck. We would love to invite him to our parliament to introduce what is Bitcoin, what is the layer 1, layer 2, and the technology behind. It's still challenge. I did that, but it's kind of challenge many people, many politicians. They might, have some misunderstanding. Wow, is this event for something?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but now we're here. That I'm really happy that we finally passed the law and to be able to very easily talk about Bitcoin, talk about stablecoin, talk about blockchain technology with the government officials, with the government, and even talk about Bitcoin reserve. So this many things change, and for the public. Look at us or kind of it's not, I think there's not misunderstanding, but there's something they're not really quite well known. It's really difficult to finalize a regulation. It's really painful. For example, like in Taiwan, we talk about Virtual Assets Act for like more than 5 years. Yes,
wow.
yes, it's so long. And many people want to delay. Many people think it's for scamming. Many people think it's not a good news for Taiwan. but for 5 years. And it takes like 1 to 2 years in the parliament to talk about it. And if we pass the timing, if we kind of not passing it through a term is like 4 years. If we pass this term, then
I see.
we will have to wait for the next term. Next term is another 4 years. So I think there's no misunderstanding from the public to see us as a politician or like a legislator. But I think there's something they might not really understand is the procedure. It's really, really difficult, and it takes time. And luckily, we passed the virtual assets law very quickly because of timing, because US just passed the Genius Act, and they're waiting for their Clarity Act. Yes, and we have our clarity moment in Taiwan earlier than US. And then we see Japan, they have a JPYC, and we don't have that new Taiwan dollar stablecoin. So I think this is the best timing for Taiwan to catch up, and we did that.
Very nice.
Crypto, stocks, commodities, one app. Trade Bitcoin and crypto. Trade Apple and Tesla. Trade gold, oil, and everything in between. Up to 40 times leverage, low fees, fast execution. No signups, no surveillance, no limits. Orange Rock, trade without limits.
All right, well, we're going to get into the act that just passed, but I have a couple comments and then a follow-up question. First of all, this 10-year period where the government maybe overreacted, it really does sound like in Japan in 2017, the ICO craze left all these Japanese investors, they lost all their money. And then the Japanese government kind of overreacted. And then it was again, like, I don't know, 6 or 7, 8 years to kind of overcome that. So it's interesting that you have a similar kind of push and pull. So that's one comment. But one follow-up, what is the average time for like major legislation to get passed in Taiwan? I'm just curious.
Yeah. For example, I think normally it takes more than 4 years because normally a bill or an act will not be passed for just one term. For example, I can give you an example. Taiwan is deliver the heart of the AI business, the chips, right? No Taiwan, no AI, because we have TSMC, we have produced 90% of the AI warehouse or the component or the chips or the chip design. And but in Taiwan, we don't have AI Act at all before this year. So, and the earliest draft of AI Act in Taiwan is proposed back to 2018. And then we passed the bill in 2026. It's 8 years. So I think it's kind of like 2 terms.
Okay.
Or 2.5 terms.
Okay.
So it's really crazy so normally it takes 4 years. And if you want to have something like emerging technology, doing something earlier, like frontier with vision, maybe it's 6 or 8. And if you are really lucky, and if you are someone or like you're so influential, it might take like within a term, like 2 years or 3 years. So normally people will say that, okay, if you are a legislator, if you passed one act, then good for you. You're really lucky. You're a great guy. You're a good legislator.
Right.
So I'm really lucky. I'm the lead sponsor of AI Basic Law passed this year in January. And I'm also one of the lead sponsor of Virtual Assets Service Act. And we passed the June 30th. And so I'm, extremely lucky, and we're working really hard.
Or very talented.
Working with, trying to make some consensus delivered by the parliament.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this. What exactly is the Virtual Asset Service Act? as you said, passed about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Could you please explain what it is, and maybe more importantly, why is it necessary? Like,
Yes.
what does it do or fix?
Yeah, great question. We just talked about the blockchain technology and cryptocurrency business in Taiwan back to 2013, right? And a lot of developer geeks and nerds all working online or on-chain for more than 10 years. But all the time in Taiwan, there is no legal position for digital assets. It's kind of not illegal, but not legal. It's a gray zone. And, for a coder, we always, has no, flavor, or, gray zone is always not our favorite.
Yeah.
So
bad for banks too.
Yeah, bad for banks.
Yeah.
And many people are trying to trade or interested in developing digital finance, DeFi, NFT, or like just writing code on chain, smart contract. A lot of people working on that, but there's no legal position for the people, the company, the corporate. It's kind of everyone is in the gray zone and mixed with the scamming group.
Yeah.
But after 2025 or around these few years, there's something different, because stablecoin is kind of like useful. It's on Ethereum, it's on Liquid, it's a lot of, blockchain already have some, utilization on stablecoin. And the supply chain, the manufacturer in Taiwan actually are already use it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if you check online, you will see a report by kind of like a government department. 5% of manufacturer and supply chain in Taiwan already adopt stablecoin, even before we pass the law. So you can see a very interesting situation in Taiwan. Company, corporate, they're suffering from the cross-border trading, and they're already adopt stablecoin. They're already thinking about Bitcoin, and they cannot hold it or report it or use it with a good manner in, following the rule or the bill. There's no bill. There's no regulation. So that's the importance for us working with the government and working with the bank. So I think the bill is, kind of like draw a line. After this, you can say it, you can do it, you can, finally you can write a code and tell you to, very proud of it, and talk to your parent. I'm doing some business on virtual assets, and I'm creating a business called Virtual Assets Service. So I think that it's a really meaning something for Taiwan, where a huge consumer, we're huge kind of prosumer, because we have a lot of developer, but we can just do it. We cannot say it out loud, and we have no clear rules to follow.
Right.
But after this, I think everyone will be happy. They can do more on blockchain technology, on crypto, on Bitcoin. And I can do my next mission is Bitcoin reserve, and trying to, push further to have our government not only to say yes to, or like to agree the existence and the importance of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, but also to adopt, adapt. I think that's the huge difference from yesterday or 2 weeks ago to today.
Nice. Is this act, so like in America, we have Genius, which only covered, it's good, but it covered a narrow thing. And then Clarity is kind of the other piece.
Yes.
This act here, you guys have passed, is kind of both together? Or is there still something else that you need to kind of get done?
Yes, a great follow-up. Thanks. In Taiwan, we call VASP, Virtual Assets Service Provider Act. It's not a very great name, but it's the old is new, right? So the VASPA, or our Clarity Moment Act, is kind of like mother law. It's including all.
Oh, nice.
It's including virtual assets. It's even including derivatives.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, very focusing on DeFi, but it didn't say no to that. And even have a full chapter of stablecoin. So it's kind of like a combine of mother law, or like a top level. And then maybe after a few weeks or a month, when our president publicly announced and firmed and make the law, because we just passed from the parliament, and then the president will have to announce it. During that time, there will be 8 or 9 kind of like a child law, or like the other act, followed by that, like a very detailed rules or guideline on stablecoin, or a detailed guide for the banks. There will be 8 or 9, but all followed by the mother law.
Very cool.
So the VASPA, the Clarity Moment Act, I think it's including all. And so the most important is the spirit. If the mother law, if the VASP Act is really restrict and conservative, then the other law or guideline follow up will, a little bit restricted, or you can do nothing, no Taiwan dollar stablecoin, no Bitcoin ETF, and no Bitcoin reserve. But if we have an open-minded type of Virtual Assets Act, and transparent, and talk about stablecoin, talk about, a different type of cryptocurrency, and then the follow-up law and follow-up guideline will be open as well.
And so is VASPA
open
nice.
For innovation? Yes. So I will encourage everyone to take a look online, or fly to Taiwan. Taiwan is a beautiful place in physical world, and now we're also the beautiful place in digital world and in virtual world. You will be amazed.
Okay. So who is going to implement these kind of child laws? Is it like a single regulator?
Yeah, a good question. Followed by the rules, it will be a Financial Supervisory Commission, FSC. It's kind of like a commission belong to the government, and they overwatch all kinds of financial activity, including banks, including securities, and now including virtual assets. So they will draft, for example, like the Virtual Assets Act, we will draft as a legislator, and they will draft their own. So normally in mother law, we will have a different kind of draft, and then we have consensus to have one unified. And then for the child law, or the other guideline followed by the mother law, basically it will be drafted by the government, by the FSC. So, but we have some, some rights and obligation to have conversation. So, because we already passed the law, right? So the banks, the financial group, the corporate, the service provider, and the legislator are all free to have a conversation with the government official, because it's not a dark area. It's not a gray zone anymore. So we can talk with that and with them very clearly, and the transparency. So I think they will draft it, and then they will they will submit through to have a kind of, not a review, but they will submit for review. But if it's already have some consensus in that draft, then we will just pass. We will have, we don't have to wait. But if there's no consensus, or if the child law is, too stupid, or it's not followed by the open-minded and the spirit of the mother law, then as a legislator we can require additional review. So we will pull the follow-up law and to put it on review, and then there will be another fight. I hope there will be no other fight.
Yeah.
And so right now, including me and the expert and the other lawmaker, we're all doing our work and trying to have a great conversation with the FSC. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, to learn some experience from Japanese government, from the other people, and bring it back to Taiwan, talk with FSC. See, they are doing this, they are doing that.
I see.
Maybe we should make our child law or follow-up rules like that.
Right.
So something like that. So I hope there will have no other fight, and we will have an open-minded and for innovation virtual assets environment in Taiwan.
Me too. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to know kind of at a high level, I ask this for when I go to different countries for conferences. How is Taiwan thinking about like dollar denominated stable coins? Some countries are just kind of like trying to ban them straight out. Like I think, where were we? Palestine, I spoke to a minister and they were like, now we're going to do that. Others like England, they were going to limit the amount, but then they kind of changed it recently. The Bank of England went back on what they were doing. Hong Kong, I spoke with a senator and they're trying to do something. What is Taiwan's strategy about this? Yeah,
great question. And you already see my next step. I think when you take a look on the balance sheet of Taiwan government, you will be, a little bit scary, because like 80% or 90% of our industry, like in financial industry, like insurance or banking, they're hugely rely on US dollar-based assets. And when you take a look about our government reserve, we have like 400 tons of physical gold. It's not very easy to transfer in extreme situation, right?
No.
And a huge amount of assets is rely on US dollar and US bond. We love US. They are our, an ally. But, don't trust, just verify, right?
Yes.
So to make it diverse, I think it's every government, they have to do it. They should do it. But in Taiwan, like 80% or 90% of our assets in industry and in reserve is more than 50, 60, 70, or 80, or even 90% is on a single country fiat money. It's really risky. So for example, and even for an individual, it's also risky. For example, there was a day, just a few months ago, a Taiwan dollar is increased the value very soon, like 10% increase in a week.
Wow.
And then every holder of Bitcoin holder in Taiwan, we only have a US dollar based Bitcoin in our market.
Right.
So
yeah,
when we, trading back to new Taiwan dollar, then we have a 10% loss without doing anything.
Right.
We just sit here, sleep, and then we have 10% lost. That's one of the, a risky part of a sovereignty. If you have your fiat money, but you don't, you don't have the pair with the new kind of assets, for example, like Bitcoin, then you don't own any sovereignty. You are trusting too much to some people other than yourself. So I think for Taiwan, it's very important for us to think about stablecoin or digital assets. First, to take a look on US dollar stablecoin, and also learn from Japan. They have a JPYC, right? And also for the reserve, when we only have a physical type of gold, and traditional type of US dollar, US bond, or maybe foreign currency. How about digitize or tokenize some of it? Maybe just a proportion. And maybe it will give you a diversity and resilience in extreme case. I think Taiwan is a technology island, but we should not take everything like in a traditional way.
Yeah.
So there is a digital way to think about it. So I will do it in my next few years in my turn, and I'm trying my best to encourage our government to think about the resilience and diversity on the assets they're holding.
So basically, I think it sounds to me like a Taiwanese dollar-denominated stablecoin is coming?
It's possible.
No, it's
because
possible.
I think the rise is after we pass the law. Originally, it's not possible. But after we pass the law and we even have a full chapter of stablecoin, and also there will be coming a full detailed guideline for stablecoin, I believe there will be a huge room for domestic stablecoin. Maybe issue a foreign currency stablecoin in Taiwan or a new Taiwan dollar, TWDC or something. It's already opened up the door, and our government has the right. Unfortunately, the banks and the company cannot just issue Taiwan dollar stablecoin in Taiwan without asking permission from the government. There are some necessary conversation or permission you have to grant, but luckily the door is open, and our government has the space for them to make the right decision. And I believe stablecoin for Taiwan dollar is a way for us to seeking for kind of like diversity and resilience.
2 more questions, sir.
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Second to last question. It sounds to me like something like a Bitcoin reserve could be strategically useful here.
Yeah. We all know that there was one issue of the Economist mentioned Taiwan on the cover, say the most dangerous place in the world. I really don't like this quote. But if we, transfer a lot of value to software, and we transfer a lot of value to virtual world or on-chain, then Taiwan could be the most secure and most safe place in the world, right? So I think for resilience, a true resilience coming from don't trust anyone, just verify, right?
Yeah.
So when I ending my speech after we finalize the law in the parliament, the last sentence I use is just don't trust, just verify. So I believe if our government is seeking for true resilience, and if we are trying to survive to increase the diversity of our reserve, so Bitcoin reserve should be on the list, on their, they should think about that. I believe they will make the final and the best decision. To my knowledge, the central bank or the government in Taiwan, they are already open up the conversation to talk about digital assets reserve. But is it Bitcoin, or is it Ether, or is that the other type of cryptocurrency, or it's maybe convert some fiat money from physical to digital or tokenized version is kind of the way, right? And maybe some people will say tokenize the gold, but I'm not the true fan of that. That maybe there's a way for the other country to consider. But for Taiwan, if you tokenize your gold, then you still need to have to trust some other
country to hold it? Or
yeah. So I think Bitcoin should be one of an option. And we believe our government will be smart enough and to make the best decision for their people. And Bitcoin, stablecoin, tokenize some property. I think there is a way to try to diverse and trying to make it plural. I think that's the way.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting. Okay, so my last question, you've talked about AI. You brought that up, and obviously Taiwan is kind of at the center of this AI boom and is riding that wave. Just from my perspective, working in the crypto space, AI has kind of sucked out all the attention and kind of all of the money and investment from crypto, which is, fair enough for right now. I'd imagine that in Taiwan, it's even more acute because Taiwan is so central to this. Is that true from your perspective? You're there. Is crypto kind of on the sidelines right now as AI is the central figure?
Yeah, it's a great question for not the end, maybe the new start. I think many people talk to me like, oh, wow, you're the legislator and the lead sponsor of Taiwan AI Basic Law, and now you're going to do a cryptocurrency, virtual assets, act. What are you doing? It's a totally different thing. I always say that, what? It's totally the same thing. For example, like if you will have an AI agent and pay for you to buy some service or do something online, would you think your OpenClaw or your AI agent will spend your money in the bill, a dollar bill, or like will use a traditional type of credit card? It has no phone number, right? So there will have a new way, a digital layer of finance natively built for AI and AI agent. And we have cryptocurrency, right? And every dialogue from your OpenClaw to other OpenClaw must be encrypted and maybe must be, authorized and have some identity and log everything on somewhere.
Yeah.
And in some third place. And people can, don't trust, but just verify, right?
Yeah, very important.
So we're here. We have blockchain. We have the technology for AI agent and for AI. And there are more than this. There are a lot of overlap. For example, like TSMC, they are building chips for mining company many years ago, right? For NVIDIA, they're creating AI, but they earn kind of not a very few money, right? Amount of money from miners, right?
Yeah.
So I think everything is related to computing and digital layer of our world. So everything is connected. So I think this era will be and these 10 years will be a convergence of everything digital. So from digital thinking, like your AI, ChatGPT, or like your digital, worker, like AI agent, your OpenClaw, to your digital money, everything will connect. And so does our regulation. So I just doing my hard work and working with the government to make sure Taiwan could connect and be part of this digital layer. So I think not only we saw it, Japan, their leading political party, LDP, they already announced a white paper about agentic commerce, right? They already imagine and picture the future of AI agent is using digital dollar or real world assets on chain, right? So I think Bitcoin or like any type of virtual assets on chain will be natively designed for any AI agent. If you ask your AI agent, would you like a credit card or a physical dollar bill or Bitcoin? I believe the answer will be really easy for your AI agent, and that's the future.
I see. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope Taiwan makes swift progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.